We are kicking off today with AEW All Out, where Swerve Strickland and Adam Page faced off in a punishing lights-out steel cage match that saw the action get started even before the cage was fully set up. The match saw plenty of weapons, including the use of a staple gun. The two men both used the staple gun, with Strickland stapling a photo of Page's family to his chest, and it wasn't long until both wrestlers were bleeding. Strickland sent Page crashing through a table, but Page responded with a powerful deadeye, and the match got even more violent when Page hit a powerbomb onto a cinder block. Later, Strickland landed directly on the cinder block, and though he fought back by stabbing Page in the head, the Cowboy shocked fans by using a needle on his enemy. The match ended with a decisive chair shot from Page, securing his win, and Strickland was left seriously injured and needed immediate medical attention. AEW fans may have loved the violent match, but Jonathan Coachman was no fan of one spot in particular, as he took to Twitter to make clear. "That needle was some of the worst things that I have seen in a long time, and anyone defending it is simply blindly loyal, which shows me that everything I get on here is you're a WWE mark, all you do is kiss Triple H's ass. Well, you clearly never watch Behind the Buckle because we are far from WWE's mouthpiece. We talk about pro wrestling, and today it's about how badly AEW is trying to make headlines. And these are the wrong ones, my goodness. It was one awful decision after another. Last one for me. On to the NFL today and something positive." Former WWE referee Jimmy Korderas echoed Coach's concerns, as he argued that Tony Khan should have stepped in to prevent unnecessary risks in the main event. "A real boss would do just that, Coach, protect the talent from themselves. Also, what a locker room leader would do. Someone needs to step up and stop the inmates from running the asylum." These comments highlight the ongoing conversation about the risks wrestlers take and whether Strickland and Page, who surely entertained the fans, also went too far with their actions. There have been questions raised about the long-term health and safety of both men, and after the match, it was reported that Strickland will be taking time off to heal up. The chair shot to the head and the hypodermic needle spot have seen Swerve taken off TV, and while he was not pinned, the match was called off by the ref, a sign of how violent it had become. Many people feel that such dangerous spots do not belong in professional wrestling, as they simply aren't needed and go too far, and that's unlikely to change anytime soon. Do you agree with what Jonathan Coachman had to say regarding the hypodermic needle spot at AEW All Out? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. During All Out 2024, security guards were seen rushing backstage in the Now Arena, and fans immediately got flashbacks to what happened at the event 2 years ago. Fans feared that once again, an AEW pay-per-view would be overshadowed by backstage problems, and now we have a better idea as to what exactly happened in Illinois. On Wrestling Observer Radio, Bryan Alvarez discussed a backstage incident involving an unnamed AEW star and a member of the company's production team at the show. The incident took place shortly before Bryan Danielson's match with Jack Perry, and Alvarez made it clear it featured someone who was not booked on the AEW All Out card. He explained, "So before this match started, a bunch of security dudes just start sprinting backstage. What happened was apparently there was some incident with one of the wrestlers that wasn't on this show. They were shooting something backstage, and this wrestler and a production guy got into a big thing. Some people are saying it was absolutely nothing, but it was big enough that security sprinted backstage. But I was told that whatever it was, they apparently talked it out and everything ended up okay." As the old adage says, there's no smoke without fire. There are those who are saying that AEW is trying to make sure that the exact details of the brawl are not out in the open to safeguard its reputation. The fact that it was someone not booked for All Out means we can already eliminate some names, including the Young Bucks, who were suspended for Brawl Out in late 2022. Unless AEW publicly names the wrestler who got into things with a production member, fans will continue to speculate on who it was, which is hardly going to be a good thing for AEW. Once again, a backstage incident has made headlines in all the wrong ways for AEW, and while Tony Khan wants to be a cool boss for the boys, it's clear he needs to make his authority clear. But what do you think? Is an absence of a major authority figure leading to these backstage incidents, and what can be done to prevent them happening again? Sound off down below. During his AEW World title match against Jack Perry, it took 2 Busaiku knees for Bryan Danielson to get the win, but things took a dark turn after the match. Following his win, Danielson was blindsided by Luchasaurus, and as Bryan recovered, Christian Cage appeared, seemingly ready to cash in his Casino Gauntlet match title shot. Before he could strike, Jon Moxley arrived at ringside, followed by Claudio Castagnoli, Pac, and Wheeler Yuta, cutting off Christian's advance, but things weren't over for the world champion. In a shocking twist, Moxley turned on Danielson, covering his head with a plastic bag while Pac held back Yuta from stopping the attack. Marina Shafir, who recently aligned with Moxley, also joined in, leaving Danielson helpless on the mat as the crowd erupted in disbelief, chanting, "This is..." This was a distressing moment, so much so that in a statement, AEW dictated on Twitter that they would not be sharing the footage, adding that AEW does not condone such actions. This response has received mixed responses, with some annoyed as they want to see the clip, while others seeing it as an effective way of making the suffocation spot seem legitimate. This betrayal of Danielson by Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli was truly a shocking moment, but the use of a plastic bag isn't an unheard of idea in AEW, with Fightful even adding that AEW Backstage was freaking out with this spot. On Instagram, Eddie Kingston uploaded an image that pointed out that Tony Khan previously rejected his ideas for dangerous spots that ended up happening at All Out, including the bag. It also showed a chair shot as well as gasoline with a matchstick, making it clear he had already proposed these ideas, but were rejected, and seemingly called out Khan over this fact. Kingston has previously stated that he pitched a suffocation spot for his 2022 feud with Chris Jericho, but the idea was rejected by Khan for being too graphic and violent. Kingston underwent surgery for his leg injury and is expected to be out of action until next year, and we'll have to wait and see what AEW will have planned for Kingston upon his return. What's your thoughts on Kingston's response to All Out? Do you feel Tony Khan should have allowed him to do some of the ideas he pitched in the past? Let us know in the comments. But why did Jon Moxley turn on Bryan Danielson after 2 years of being allies in the Blackpool Combat Club? Well, there's 2 prevailing theories behind the turn. One major facet of heel turns across wrestling has been the pursuit of championship gold, and this matter could be as simple as Bryan has the AEW World title, and Moxley wants it. With 3 reigns, Moxley has the most AEW World title reigns of anyone in company history, though it's been close to 2 years since his most recent reign was ended by MJF. It was MJF who'd go on to have the longest reign in history, and with Bryan at long last at the top of AEW, it seems the man who wants to topple him is the one closest to him. Moxley may be eager for his 4th AEW World Championship reign, and with his new faction flanking him, it may be a matter of time before a title change takes place. It was at the post-All-In edition of Dynamite that Jon Moxley made his return to programming in his first appearance since losing the IWGP World Heavyweight title at Forbidden Door. On his first night back, Moxley called out Darby Allin, but his promo's most interesting line was when he told Tony Schiavone that this isn't your company anymore. Of course, this wasn't meant to be directed at Schiavone, but rather the company Tony represents, and it remains to be seen who these words were directed toward. After what happened at All Out, though, it appears that this could be Bryan Danielson, who has always been the type to fight for AEW against whatever group or individual may oppose it. Whether it be MJF or the Elite, Danielson has battled those who seek to sow chaos in AEW, and now he's the AEW World Champion and the de facto face of the promotion. Moxley may have called him out after he became the champion to make a statement, and in addition to taking the title, could also take his status as face of the company. With this, even Bryan's closest allies may not be safe from Moxley's wrath, and Claudio Castagnoli has already sided with Moxley over Danielson, as we saw in the Now Arena. Jon Moxley has yet to address his actions and clarify the future of the Blackpool Combat Club, though with Marina Shafir and Pac, this may be the dawn of a new faction. If so, it may be a faction that Moxley will lead to take over AEW, meaning that nobody, not even Tony Khan, may be safe from this darker side to the former world champion. We'll hopefully get answers on this week's Dynamite, though only if Moxley chooses to explain himself, and stay tuned to find out the reasons behind the shocking all-out betrayal. More from All Out as MJF defeated Daniel Garcia in the show's opener using some underhanded tactics, but this match nearly went a very different way. According to Ibu of Wrestling Purists, Daniel Garcia was supposed to win the match clean, but this was changed, allegedly due to Garcia's unresolved contract situation with AEW. Despite this change, Garcia got the last laugh as he didn't fall for a phony handshake by MJF after the match and instead hit a pile driver on the former AEW World Champion. Ibu adds that the spot was done to write MJF off TV as he's expected to go film a movie, meaning fans may not see the salt of the earth in the ring for some time. As for Garcia, his contract is reportedly set to expire this October, and while WWE reportedly believes he is re-signed with AEW, nothing has been confirmed at this time. Despite his unpredictable contract situation, AEW has still advertised Garcia on All Elite Wrestling's website. In the events section, Daniel Garcia is being advertised on the posters for the October 26th and November 2nd episodes of Collision in Cedar Rapids and Philadelphia. He's also on the poster of the November 27th edition of Dynamite and Collision taping in Chicago. Fightful reports that his contract negotiations are in its final stages, and if things don't materialize with Garcia, AEW can very well remove him from these future events, but we're not convinced to give him a win over MJF, elevating his status when he lands in WWE or any other promotion. Do you think it's a right move from AEW from a business standpoint, or do you feel otherwise? Sound off in the comments below. At All Out, the Young Bucks defended their AEW World Tag Team Championships against Wheeler Yuta and Claudio Castagnoli, but this was an especially tough match for the EVPs. On Wrestling Observer Radio, it was shared that Nicholas Jackson injured his shoulder during the Collision All-Star 8-man tag match on Friday, but he continued to work the All Out match. It's safe to say that Jey Uso has had his issues with his family in recent years, from feuding with his cousin Roman Reigns to facing his brother Jimmy at WrestleMania 40. Now Jey is ready to take his feuds from the ring to the world of game shows, as on Instagram, he shared that he'd love to appear on Family Feud with his brothers. Jey tagged Steve Harvey in the post, and given that WWE superstars have appeared on the show before, don't count out a Bloodline special edition of the hit show. Is this an episode of Family Feud you'd like to see? And what do you think will come next for Jey Uso and the Bloodline? Share your predictions in the comments section. When you attend a WWE event, you're there to enjoy the live wrestling and maybe have a drink, but sometimes fans go way too far, as was the case last week at SmackDown. PW Insider reports that a fight took place among fans of the show, and security had to step in after a man with 2 children threw a punch at a drunk fan who was causing a disturbance. The drunk fan continued to cause problems and started arguing with another spectator, and was seen crying to security while others told him to stop in a chaotic scene last Friday night. The last time fans saw Seth Rollins in WWE was on the post-SummerSlam edition of Raw, where he was flattened by 6 tsunami finishers by Bronson Reed. This was Reed's biggest statement of his career, and the Austrian has kept his momentum going with attacks on R-Truth and Braun Strowman, the latter of whom was slammed on a car. Recently, Rollins continued his tradition of tweeting his love or hate for football, depending on how the Chicago Bears are doing, and since they won last weekend, Seth loves the sport. In response to a Twitter user, Reed made reference to Rollins' football tweet and said that Seth should stick to that, clearly warning him against returning to the ring. It's unclear when Rollins will be back, but he has signed a new contract with WWE this year, and whenever he does return, Bronson Reed will be waiting for the former Universal Champion. Now, Karmen Petrovic is one of the bright young stars of NXT who recently made an appearance in TNA Wrestling, and now the Gold Brand superstar has made friends with a huge rap name. On Twitter, Petrovic shared a photo with 50 Cent, saying that the rapper will walk out with her at WrestleMania one day, and shared that Cent's music helped her immensely in her fight career. Petrovic appears to have a bright future ahead of her, and could 50 Cent be a part of it? Time will tell, but we know to never count out a celebrity appearance in the world of WWE. There was a time when Rebel was a regular on AEW programming thanks to her partnership with Britt Baker, but it's been quite some time since we last saw her on television. Rebel hasn't competed for AEW since the summer of 2022, and taking to Instagram this week, shared that she's been undergoing some serious health issues. Rebel explained that she was hospitalized in May after a mass was found on her lung, and it turned out that she was dealing with a case of pneumonia. It was reported last year that Rebel was still under contract despite her lengthy absence from AEW, and we're sending her our very best as she continues to recover from this health issue. When Matt Hardy parted ways with AEW this year, talk immediately turned to a WWE return, though he and his brother Jeff are currently appearing for TNA. On his Extreme Life podcast, Matt said that he and Jeff are very happy with how things are going in TNA, and they're excited about their plans for the rest of the year. When asked about a WWE return or even going back to AEW, Matt said never say never, and mentioned that while they're happy in TNA, they won't rule out AEW down the line. That hinges on if something intriguing comes up, and he also acknowledged that conversations with WWE are ongoing, leaving the door open for potential future collaborations. Matt has previously said that he and Jeff want to end their careers in WWE, possibly to capture the NXT Tag Team Championships, Tag Gold, that they are yet to hold. With WWE and TNA now having a working relationship, the possibility of seeing Matt and Jeff Hardy back on WWE television has become more likely, especially in NXT. Fans will have to wait and see if the iconic duo are the next TNA stars to show up in WWE NXT, and if there would be more planned after that, as the door seems open for future collaborations. Would you like to see the Hardys back in WWE? How would you book the iconic duo? Let us know in the comments section below. Chelsea Green returned to NXT last week to confront Roxanne Perez, but the arriving Giulia quickly disposed of the self-professed hot mess. It's since been announced that Giulia's WWE in-ring debut will come this week against Green, and that's a match that the former Women's Tag Team Champion wants no part of. On Twitter, Green lost her cool and made clear that someone had made a big mistake and insisted that she's kept very busy on Tuesdays before begging NXT GM Ava to rectify this. For all her complaining, Green will face Giulia this week, and the Japanese sensation will be looking to send a message to the NXT Women's Champion in this match. And we're ending with JBL, who's shown up in various promotions recently, leading to discussions about his future, possibly in the ring, both in and out of WWE. JBL's first non-WWE appearance since late 1996 came on August 17th when he appeared at AAA Triplemania and accompanied then Mega Champion Nick Nemeth for his title match. That match saw the Wanted Man lose to Alberto El Patron, and Layfield joined Patron's heel faction with Conan and Dorian Roldan. 1 week later, JBL appeared at GCW Homecoming and prevented Effie from interfering by leveling him with a series of clotheslines from hell. JBL helped Mance Warner win the World Heavyweight title ladder match, but the Texan wasn't done yet, as he appeared at TNA Emergence after Nemeth's main event victory. The former Dolph Ziggler retained the TNA Championship against Josh Alexander in an Iron Man match, and post-match, JBL whispered something to Nemeth before leaving. PW Insider reports that Layfield is able to appear for outside promotions as he's under a WWE Legends deal that doesn't prohibit him from appearing elsewhere. With that said, he is appearing as John Layfield rather than JBL or Bradshaw, as WWE owns those terms, which also explains why his attire is different for these appearances. While WWE can book him, he remains free to take work elsewhere, just as long as he doesn't use the gimmick that WWE owns. The report adds that WWE officials have no problem with Layfield working for other companies, but it remains to be seen whether we'll see him wrestle again, perhaps at a Saudi PLE. With his appearances so far, Layfield has shown he's in great shape over a decade after his most recent match, which was the 2014 Royal Rumble match. Layfield's most recent standard match was at WrestleMania 25, where he lost the Intercontinental title to Rey Mysterio in a squash, then promptly retired from wrestling. John Layfield is a name synonymous with wrestling, and could we soon be seeing the Cowboy Millionaire make a return to in-ring competition? Time will tell.